Hey there, guys, and welcome to another episode of Max's Tavern. Go ahead, pull up a seat, grab a drink, and let's start talking. This episode, I actually wanted to do something kind of different. I'll be going through the new Commander Precon. Um, was just released for Kaldheim a couple weeks back. Probably seen it if you're at all interested in Magic the Gathering, but I still wanted to talk about it because I think it really sets an amazing precedent for Magic precons. Precon meaning pre-constructed deck. Let's jump right into it. So this is Golgari Elf Ball, which is green-black, and it is an elf tribal deck. So the whole point of the deck is have as many elves as possible onto the battlefield, pump them up, do crazy shit with elves, and then just merc face with your elves. I think this is going to be the norm for any deck reviews I do. We're going to start with the artifacts. I was actually kind of surprised at how few artifacts were actually in this precon. We just have 3 to start off with. We've got an Arcane Signet, which is 2 tap, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity, kind of becoming a staple in these precons, as well as Soul Ring, the good old commander staple. 1 tap, add 2 colorless. But we also have a really interesting card. I've never seen it before, so I'm guessing it is new. It's called Serpent Souljar, and for 2 and a black, you get whenever an elf you control dies, exile it. And then you can tap the artifact, pay 2 life, and until end of turn, you may cast a creature spell from among cards exiled with Serpent Souljar. So it's really awesome, because you get the ability to just constantly be reusing elves, and you don't need to have anything that casts from grave to be able to do it, which is just very cool. I'm gonna mute my phone real quick. But those are all the artifacts that come in the deck, so I was a little let down by that. I definitely think we could have cut some of the creatures. We have 40 of them, and we could probably count on one hand how many are actually useful in this list. First off that we have in the useful tier is Beast Whisperer. He's been a really good card to just have in the game in Commander. He is 2 colorless and 2 green. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card, which is really good in any tribal deck, any deck that's focus is mainly on creatures. Other useful reprints, let's see. Farhaven Elf. It's a really good reprint, but I'm a little bummed because it was just reprinted in Commander Legends, but also it's a really good reprint. Farhaven Elf is 2 and a green. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Green already doesn't have many problems with ramping, but it's just a good card to have in a collection. I've actually got that in my staple binder because it is such a good card to have just in general. Another great reprint is Lysolana Huntmaster. She is 2 and 2 green. Whenever you cast an elf spell, you may put a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token onto the battlefield. And she's insanely good in any elf deck because, hey, get a free elf every time you cast an elf. It's amazing. Another card on that list of amazing reprints is Marwyn the Nurturer, last seen in Dominaria. So it's been a minute since she got a reprint. She is 2 and a green for a legendary creature, so you can only have 1 of her on the battlefield at a time. Whenever another elf enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Marwyn the Nurturer, and then tap at an amount of green equal to Marwyn's power. I actually run her as my mono green elf commander. She's just really good at ramping out and letting you get a bunch of things just slapped onto the battlefield immediately. This is probably my favorite reprint from this set, and that is Reese the Exiled. 2 and a green for a legendary elf creature warrior. Blah. Whenever Reese the Exiled attacks, you gain 1 life for each elf you control, and then you can pay black, sacrifice an elf, and regenerate Reese the Exiled, meaning put him right back onto the battlefield as soon as he dies. And this was a really cool reprint because when this deck got announced first, there was a huge buy up, and it pushed his price up to like $30. So already buying this $20 precon, you get a really sought after card. So it's awesome. Last reprint that I think is worth mentioning is Wood Elves for 2 and a green. When Wood Elves comes into play, search your library for a forest card and put that card into play, then shuffle your library. Now, it sounds a lot like, where was it at? Farhaven Elf, but it's a lot better. Farhaven Elf only lets you get a basic land card, whereas Wood Elves lets you get any land card and put it onto the battlefield. And it doesn't even come in tapped. So you could go, and if you're running a big budget deck, you can grab Bayou, one of the original dual lands. Taps for black and green, comes in, just, it's there. It's there and it's able to be used, which Wood Elves is just such a good card, and it's so good to see it got a reprint. New cards that are in this, I'm going to consider Canopy Tactician. It is printed in Kaldheim, but it's also printed here. It's another Elvish Archdruid, which did also get a reprint in this. Just 1 more mana. Other elves you control get +1/+1, and then tap, add 3 green mana. And it's just another Lord for elves, just buffs all the elves, and it works so amazingly. Another one I'm really excited to see is Herald, King of Skemfar, which again came out of Kaldheim. For 1 green and black, he has Menace, and when he enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal an elf, warrior, or Tyvar card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And what's really interesting to me about Herald is the fact that he can add an elf or a warrior to your hand, but he can also add Tyvar. And if you haven't been keeping up, Tyvar is the new Elven Planeswalker from Kaldheim. I don't have him pulled up, but I remember his static is all elves you control can tap and add 1 black. And then he has a 0 that puts a 1/1 green elf into play. So it's a handy card, especially in an elf tribal deck. And the last new creature I want to talk about is called Wolverine Riders. It is 4 green. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. Whenever another elf enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to its toughness. And that is really important in elves, in Golgari specifically. Green does not have a lot of life gain, so when you're getting beaten down, it's really hard to start coming back from that. Black does have some, but it usually comes at a pretty big cost. And Wolverine basically says, nah, man, we're just going to gain life, and we're going to love it. And that is the creatures in this. Those are the noteworthy creatures. We have quite a few others. Elvish Mystic, 1 green, tap, add 1 green to your mana pool. I was actually surprised the other 1 green mana dork elf wasn't in here. Llanowar elves. It was just kind of surprising because it's like the elf. But that's really it for notable creatures. Oh, shoot, of course. Ruthless Winnower. How could I forget Ruthless Winnower? For 3 black and black, you have an elf rogue, and at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a non-elf creature. This is honestly my number 1 pick out of this deck. If I were to go and pick up actual singles to run in other decks, it would be Ruthless Winnower. I honestly almost pulled it to be in the staple binder because it is so good. Just that being able to force other players to sacrifice a non-elf at the beginning of their turn. It really helps keep more narrow boards down. It's also, It will not sacrifice itself because it has to be a non-elf. The only big drawback in non-elf decks is that you would have to sacrifice something else that you own. But in other decks, that could be really useful, like Marin of Clan Nel Toth. Get a free experience counter at the beginning of your upkeep. It's really good card, and I'm honestly shocked it's not more expensive since it's only available in a precon. Alrighty, but that really does wrap it up for creatures. We're going to come into our enchantments. I was actually really surprised. I thought we had 2 sagas, which are really fun to see in precons. It is only 1 saga. We've got Binding the Old Gods. The first turn it comes in, destroy target non-land permanent and opponent controls. Second turn, search your library for a forest card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle, so it's a lot like Wood Elves there. And then the third part, creatures you control gain Death Touch until end of turn. That is really awesome, especially for a go wide deck like Elf Tribal. It's just really powerful. Then we've got a unique one. We have Crown of Skemfar, which is new to all of Magic. Wasn't even in Kaldheim. It's 2 and 2 green for enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each elf you control and has reach. And then you can pay 2 and a green, return it from your graveyard to your hand, which I love enchantments that recur themselves. They're so good. It's the best. Elderfang Venom, and I like this card for another card that came out in Kaldheim. Attacking elves you control have Death Touch. Whenever an elf you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Now, this is really cool for a non-elf, and I'm really bummed he's not an elf, but he came out in Kaldheim, and he is called Finn the Fangbearer. And he has Death Touch, and his ability says that anytime a creature with Death Touch deals combat damage to an opponent, that opponent gains 2 poison counters. If you're unfamiliar with poison counters, once you get 10 poison, you are dead. No ifs, ands, or buts. And it is such a cool mechanic. I love it. It is the best way to lose friends, but it's so interesting. And so to be able to give all of your attacking elves Death Touch on a card, and especially in a go wide combo deck like elves, it's such a lethal combination. And then also, whenever an elf you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. I'm not a fan of just each opponent loses 1 life and you gain just 1 life, but it's a go wide deck. It's a token deck. You're going to see a lot of your tokens die, so it's going to drain your opponents a lot. The other notable enchantment, which is notable because I think the last time we saw it was Morningtide, is Prowess of the Fair. For 1 and a black, it's actually a tribal enchantment, so it is specifically for elves, an enchantment built entirely for elves. Whenever another non-token elf is put into your graveyard from play, you may put a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token into play. Again, we're in a go-wide strategy. A lot of shit's going to die. It's going to be amazing. There are 2 other enchantments, but they're honestly not that great. Moldervine Reclamation, 3 black and green. Whenever a creature you control dies, gain 1 life and draw a card. I don't like it because it's so high costed and its ability honestly isn't that great. The gain 1 life and draw a card is extremely powerful. In a go wide strategy, it does work decently well, but there's just other cards I would rather play. And then Pride of the Perfect, it's a really good card in elves. 3 and a black, elves you control get +2/+0. It's really good, but it did not need a reprint. It just got printed in Commander Legends again. So, and at an uncommon. So I am sitting on literally dozens of them. I do not need any more. We have another kind of short list of instants. We have just 4, but again, they're really they're really good quality instants. When I did my own upgrades, I only pulled one of these from the deck. I kept all the other three. The first one that's really amazing is Elven Ambush for 3 and a green, and it says create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token for each elf you control. And that is a even better printing of another card that had existed in Magic previously, Elvish Promenade, which is also in this precon, but it's better because it's the exact same cost, but it's at instant speed. So say there's a big, another go wide deck is swinging into you and you don't have quite enough blockers. You can just drop that Elven Ambush and boom, you've doubled the amount of blockers you have. Super good. Another one is Putrefy. It's an amazing card. 1 black and green, destroy target artifact or creature. It can't be regenerated. It's really just that destroy target artifact or creature on a 3 CMC spell. It's so good. Being able to remove artifacts is really great in Commander, and then creature removal is always great no matter what. This card is actually in my staple binder because it is so good. I run it in anything that has green and black in it. It belongs in anything with green and black. Next, we have Poison the Cup for 1 black, and it actually has the new mechanic from Kaldheim, Foretell. During your turn, you may pay 2 and exile this card from your hand face down. Cast it on a later turn for its Foretell cost. And its Foretell cost is 1 and a black. So for an additional mana, you can have this card in your corner pocket and just be able to cast it whenever you really want to. Its ability is destroy target creature. So already it's basically a murder, which is again 1 and 2 black for an instant, destroy target creature. However, if you pay that additional mana, if this spell was foretold, scry 2. So you also get to look at the top 2 cards of your library for getting to destroy a creature, and all it costs is 1 more mana. It's really good. I really like this card. I want to get more copies of it because it is so good. I'm really excited about the Foretell mechanic. I can't wait to see them do more of it. The one card I did cut from the instant slot is Turgrid's Shadow, which is 3 and 2 black. It also has Foretell. Its Foretell cast is 2 and 2 black. So again, pay 1 extra to get it cheaper later. And its ability is each player sacrifices 2 creatures, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. One of my favorite planeswalkers is Liliana Dreadhorde General, and I believe it's her -2 is each player sacrifices a creature, and it's really good. 2 creatures is a bit much if I'm having to sacrifice 2 creatures. Now, again, if I were running this in something that really wants to see my own creatures die, like Marin or Muldrotha, then I am all for it. But in this, yeah, if I have a lot of tokens, it's great, but it feels too situational to me. Alrighty, that is the instance, and we are on to the sorceries. We really, honestly, don't have that many notable sorceries in this. There are 2 that I'm really excited about. Bounty of Skemfar is the first for 2 and a green. Reveal the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a land from among them onto the battlefield tapped and an elf from among them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So it's almost like a Cultivate, which is 2 and a green. Grab 2 basic lands, 1 onto the battlefield tapped, 1 into your hand. Except this time, it can be any land from the top 6 cards of your library, and you get an elf from among those into your hand. So I really like that card, and I want more of that one. I want 1 more copy of that one for mono green elves. Then we have Elvish Promenade, and I mentioned it before with Elven Ambush. It's just a really good card. The fact that it's not an instant kind of hurts a little bit, but it doubles all of your elves. Um, in new cards that are interesting but not that great, we have Pact of the Serpent for 1 and 2 black. Choose a creature type. Target player draws X cards and loses X life, where X is the number of creatures they control of the chosen type. It's really good in a tribal deck. Don't get me wrong. I just don't like losing that much life. Especially in a token tribal deck. Like if this were dragons, I'm probably going to move this card over to my Dragon deck, because I don't have that many dragons on the field at any one time, but I have enough where the draw cards is mitigated by the loss of life is mitigated by the draw cards, and it's not that bad of a mana cost. Other reprints that are in this set, we have Casualties of War, last seen in War of the Spark, for 2 black and 2 green. Choose 1 or more, destroy target artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. You can get them all, but I'm just not a fan. It's not that great. Eyeblight Massacre is a really great board clear in Elves. It's a damnation for everything that's not Elves. Well, it's half a damnation. 2 and 2 black, non-elf creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. It's really good, don't get me wrong, but it was just reprinted in Commander Legends, so it was not a needed reprint. Other than that, we've got some new cards out of Kaldheim. Return Upon the Tide, I'm really excited for. It's 4 and a black, so it's a Rise from the Grave. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. If it's an elf, create 2 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens. And it also has Foretell. So pay the 2, exile it face down, and then you can foretell it for 3 and a black. I'm excited for that, but it was in the regular Kaldheim set, so it's not quite as cool. And that is really the notable sorceries. Onto lands, we have a pretty standard lineup. The one land that I was kind of not anticipating, but very excited to see, was Path of Ancestry. Enters the battlefield tapped, and then tap, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. When that mana is spent to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, scry 1. It's in the staple binder. I already have quite a few of them, but it's really cool to see that we are getting it reprinted more. Its first printing was in 2017, and then we didn't get a reprint until Commander Legends in 2020. So it was like a $16 card until then, but it was printed in Commander Legends. So that's the really notable printings out of the deck. And they're really cool. Don't get me wrong. I love this precon. If Wizards can use this precon as a standard for any other pre-constructed deck going forward, I think we are going to see some amazing pre-constructed decks in the future. I haven't gotten a chance to test it a whole lot. One of the things we'll be doing is we are uploading video onto YouTube now. So I will have some playthroughs of my upgraded precon, which I suppose would be the next best thing, is to talk about what things you can add into your deck to upgrade it, because the deck could really use some upgrades. First off, we've got the lost the word for a second. We've got the tribal package, which is Coat of Arms, Urza's Incubator, Vanquisher's Banner, Herald's Horn, all of those things that just buff tribal strategies. Some of them are a little expensive. I think Urza's Incubator is at $20 right now, but it's such a good card. All of your creatures of the chosen type cost 2 less to cast, so you can get your Farhaven Elf for a green. You can cast Lathril, Blade of Elves, for black and green. Beast Whisperer, 2 green, etc. It's really good card. It's really necessary in any tribal deck, in my opinion. I didn't add many creatures from the stable binder. I think the creature lineup was really solid already. The only one I did add was Nissa Vastwood Seer, which is the Flipwalker Nissa. She is 2 and a green on her front side, and then when she enters, go grab a basic forest from your library, put it into your hand. When you play your land for the turn, if you control 7 or more lands, transform her. And she's a pretty decent planeswalker on the backside. I cannot remember off the top of my head what her backside is. Hopefully you'll see it in the gameplay. But she's really good. She's worth having in the deck. Another couple cards I added was a Beastmaster Ascension, which is 2 and a green. Whenever your creature you control attacks, put a quest counter on Beastmaster Ascension. As long as it has 7 or more quest counters on it, creatures you control get +5/+5. Again, this is a go wide deck strategy, so we should have a ton of creatures attacking. I also added in my personal favorite artifact at the moment, which is Amulet of Vigor. It's 1 and permanents you control that would come in tapped, untap. So any of those slow lands, I'm really loving it for the decks I don't want to shove a bunch of expensive lands into. Looking at you, Ur-Dragon, with all your 5 colors. It's just a really good card. It's such an amazing card. I did upgrade the land package. So I've got Overgrown Tomb in there. I've got Undergrowth Stadium. I've got quite a few things. I'm noticing I'm going kind of long here. So I kind of want to wrap up with one of my favorite editions. It's relatively cheap. It came out of Commander Legends, and it is Nightshade Harvester for 3 and a black. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, that player loses 1 life. Put a 1/1 counter on Nightshade Harvester. So she's just really good for cruelty, and I love that. Love that in black. It's so good. Overall, this is a really good precon if you're wanting to get into Magic the Gathering and Commander specifically. I would highly recommend the Lathril Blade of Elves Commander deck. It's so good. My recommendation would be to switch out Miara and Numa for the Commander. So make Miara and Numa, who have partner, you can run them both as the Commander, and put Lathril in the 98. Lathril is an amazing commander, don't get me wrong. I just like being able to cast for low cost, and it also let me slide in Jeweled Lotus, which is always fun. But that's going to be where I leave off today. Thank you all so much for listening. I am actually running out of my time, so I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you later. Oh wow, you guys made it to the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Had to take my glasses off because it's too bright there. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, a comment, maybe subscribe, share it with your friends. If you want to make sure you see any other videos as they pop up, make sure to hit that little bell icon, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye!